The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but Dr. Alex Reed barely noticed. He stared at the data streaming across his monitors in the cramped research station orbiting Europa. The quantum field readings made no sense whatsoever. Energy signatures were appearing from directions that should have been empty space, carrying patterns that defied every law of physics he knew. "Computer, run diagnostics on all sensors," Alex muttered, rubbing his tired eyes. 3 weeks of isolation on Meridian 7 had taken its toll, but this discovery could change everything. The diagnostics came back clean. Every instrument was functioning perfectly. The impossible readings were real. Alex leaned forward, his heart racing as he studied the patterns more closely. The energy signatures weren't random. They formed a complex network of interconnected pulses, like neurons firing in some vast cosmic brain. The signals were traveling faster than light, which should have been impossible. Yet there they were, clear as day on his screens, halfway across the solar system. Dr. Emma Foster was having an equally strange morning at the research facility. Beneath CERN, she had arrived early to run routine tests on the particle accelerator when her equipment started registering anomalous readings. Energy fields were fluctuating in ways that made her question her sanity. "This can't be right," she whispered, checking her instruments for the 5th time. The quantum field detector was showing massive disturbances, as if something enormous was stirring in the fabric of space itself. Meanwhile, on the dark side of the moon, technician Roy Chun was troubleshooting a malfunctioning radio telescope when it suddenly burst to life. Signals poured in from every direction, carrying information in formats no human had ever seen. The patterns were incredibly complex, yet somehow familiar, like hearing a forgotten melody from childhood. Back on Europa, Alex's hands trembled as he realized what he was seeing. The energy signatures weren't natural phenomena. They were artificial. Someone or something had built a communication network that spanned the entire galaxy. And after lying dormant for who knows how long, it was waking up. The implications hit him like a physical blow. Humanity wasn't alone. Not only that, but they were apparently connected to something vast and ancient, something that had been waiting in the darkness between the stars. Alex immediately sent an encrypted message to Earth marked with the highest priority codes. Within minutes, his data was being analyzed by teams around the world. The response was swift and unanimous. This was the most significant discovery in human history. At NASA headquarters, Director Linda Walsh convened an emergency meeting. The world's top scientists gathered via secure video link, their faces pale, as they reviewed the evidence. The quantum signatures were undeniable. Something massive was happening, and humanity was right in the middle of it. "The energy patterns suggest a network of some kind," explained Dr. Foster from CERN. "It's like the universe has a hidden internet and we just accidentally logged on." The signals were growing stronger by the hour. Research stations across the solar system were detecting the same phenomena. Radio telescopes on Earth were picking up structured transmissions from deep space. Most disturbing of all, the signals seemed to be converging on Sol system. Alex stared out the viewport of his station at the ice-covered surface of Europa below. In the distance, Jupiter's massive bulk dominated the sky, its great red spot like an unblinking eye. He wondered if ancient civilizations had once gazed at their own worlds with the same mixture of wonder and fear he felt now. The quantum network was clearly designed by intelligence far beyond human understanding. The mathematics alone were staggering. Whoever built this system had mastered technologies that humanity could barely imagine. They had turned the very fabric of space into a communication medium, creating instantaneous connections across impossible distances. But why was it activating now? What had triggered this cosmic awakening? As Alex pondered these questions, new data began flowing across his screens. The energy signatures were changing, becoming more focused, more purposeful. It was as if something vast was turning its attention toward Earth. Deep in the classified levels of the Pentagon, military analysts were reaching the same conclusion. General Robert Hayes studied the latest intelligence reports with growing unease. The quantum disturbances weren't random events. They showed clear signs of intelligent control, of purpose. How long until whatever's out there reaches us? He asked his science advisor. Unknown, sir. These energy patterns don't follow our understanding of physics. They could be here tomorrow, or they might already be here. The general's face darkened. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was more terrifying than any science fiction nightmare. Across the world, governments began quiet preparations. Military units were placed on alert. Emergency protocols were dusted off and updated. The public remained unaware, but those in power understood that humanity stood at a crossroads. Back on Meridian 7, Alex continued his analysis as the cosmic drama unfolded around him. A quantum network was revealing more of its secrets with each passing hour. The signals carried information encoded in ways that stretched human comprehension. Patterns within patterns, meanings hidden in mathematical structures that seemed to exist in dimensions beyond normal space, yet somehow, Alex began to sense an underlying logic to it all. The network wasn't just transmitting random data. It was sharing knowledge, histories, entire civilizations' worth of information, flowing through quantum channels that connected star systems across the galaxy. The most chilling realization came as dawn broke over Europa's icy horizon. The network wasn't just ancient, it was active, current, very much alive. And now that humanity had stumbled upon it, they had announced their presence to whatever intelligences controlled it. Alex's coffee had long since gone cold, but he no longer cared about creature comforts. He was witnessing the end of humanity's childhood, the moment when they stepped from their small corner of space onto a stage where ancient powers held sway. The quantum signatures continued to strengthen, painting impossible pictures across his screens. Soon, very soon, humanity would learn whether they were welcome in this vast cosmic community, or if they had accidentally triggered something that would be their doom. The emergency klaxon shattered the morning calm at Naval Command in Norfolk. Admiral Kate Torres had been reviewing routine reports when the alert came through, classified at the highest possible level. Within seconds, her secure phone was ringing, with calls from the Pentagon, NASA, and intelligence agencies around the world. "Admiral, we have a situation," came the voice of General Hayes through the encrypted line. "Multiple contacts have appeared throughout the solar system. They're not showing up on conventional radar, but our quantum sensors are going crazy." Kate felt her blood run cold. After the discoveries of the past 24 hours, this was the call everyone had been dreading. She quickly made her way to the Situation Room, where her staff was already assembling data from observatories worldwide. The images appearing on the main screen defied belief. Massive structures were materializing out of what had seemed like empty space. Ships, if they could be called that, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. They had been there all along, hidden by technology that made human stealth systems look like children's toys. "How many?" Kate asked, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. 17 confirmed contacts, ma'am. More appearing every hour. They're positioned at strategic points throughout the system. Asteroid belt, Jupiter space, near Mars. They have us completely surrounded. The implications were staggering. These vessels had been waiting, watching, possibly for years. Or decades. Humanity had been living under the gaze of alien intelligence without ever knowing it. At the same time, similar scenes were unfolding in command centers across Earth. In Moscow, General Petrov stared at satellite images showing the same impossible craft. In Beijing, Admiral Yu watched as her naval intelligence staff tried to make sense of sensors that were detecting objects where nothing should exist. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Emma Foster, still working frantically at CERN, detected a new type of quantum signature approaching Earth's atmosphere. This one was different from the network signals, more focused, more intentional. "It's some kind of transmission," she reported to the hastily assembled international crisis team. "Highly compressed, but our computers are starting to decode it. It appears to be ... the language." Within hours, the world's top linguists and computer scientists were working around the clock to decipher the alien message. The breakthrough came when they realized the transmission wasn't just audio or visual, but quantum information that bypassed normal communication entirely and spoke directly to the mathematical structures of consciousness itself. The message, when finally understood, was both simple and terrifying. A being calling itself ambassador, Thane spoke directly into the minds of every human on Earth simultaneously. The voice was calm, measured, but carried undertones of power that made it clear this was not a request. Greetings, children of the third world from the Yellow Star. We are the Council of the Dominion, guardians of order in this galaxy for 10,000 of your years. Your recent activities have disturbed ancient systems and announced your presence to powers that have watched your species grow. The message paused, and in that silence, Kate could hear her own heartbeat echoing in the Situation Room. Around the world, billions of people stopped what they were doing, united for the first time in human history by the alien voice speaking in their minds. Your species has reached a crossroads. You have developed technologies that affect the quantum foundations of reality itself. Such power cannot be left unguided. You will be tested to determine if humanity deserves to continue existing or if your brief experiment with consciousness must end. Kate gripped the edge of the briefing table as the voice continued. You have 48 of your hours to prove your worthiness. 3 challenges have been prepared, each designed to test the qualities necessary for membership in galactic civilization. Failure in any challenge will result in the sterilization of your world and the termination of your species. The silence that followed was deafening. In command centers, government buildings, and homes around the world, humans grappled with the reality that their continued existence hung in the balance, but Ambassador Thane wasn't finished. The first challenge tests your mastery of energy and matter. A star will be created in your outer system, but it will be unstable. You must prevent its collapse using only the technologies currently at your disposal. The second challenge tests your understanding of information and meaning. A cipher will be provided that has confounded civilizations for millennia. You must decode its message. The third challenge tests your ability to preserve life. An ancient device will be activated that could either heal your world or destroy it. You must determine its proper function. The alien voice took on an almost curious tone. These tasks have been attempted by 47 species before you. All have failed. The technologies required are beyond what any civilization your age should possess. The concepts involved transcend normal understanding of physics and reality. Yet the challenges remain, waiting for a species capable of the impossible. Kate realized she was holding her breath. Around her, the most powerful military minds on Earth sat in stunned silence, grappling with problems that seemed to have no solution. Your time begins now, concluded the voice. We will not interfere, we will not assist, we will not explain. Succeed, and humanity will take its place among the stars. Fail, and Earth will become another silent world, a monument to ambition that exceeded wisdom. The quantum transmission ended, leaving an eerie quiet that seemed to press down on the entire planet. Within minutes, emergency protocols activated around the globe. The President of the United States, the Premier of China, the leaders of every major nation found themselves on the same secure conference call for the first time in history. Old rivalries and political differences suddenly seemed petty in the face of species-wide extinction. We need our best people, declared President Williams, her voice cutting through the shocked silence. Every scientist, every engineer, every brilliant mind we have. This isn't about nations anymore. It's about survival. The response was immediate and unprecedented. Resources that had been hoarded for decades suddenly became freely shared. Classified technologies were declassified overnight. Scientists who had been working in isolation found themselves part of the largest cooperative effort in human history. Kate found herself appointed as overall coordinator for the military aspects of the crisis. Her job was to ensure that the scientific teams had everything they needed, no matter the cost. Money, equipment, personnel, nothing was too valuable to risk on humanity's last chance. As reports flowed in from around the world, the scope of the challenge became clear. The unstable star was already forming near Pluto, its energy output increasing exponentially. The cipher had appeared simultaneously at every major university and research facility on Earth, its symbols shifting and changing in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The mysterious device had materialized in Earth's upper atmosphere, its purpose completely opaque. Kate stared at the tactical displays showing the alien vessels maintaining their silent vigil. 48 hours to achieve what 47 other civilizations had failed to accomplish. 48 hours to prove that humanity deserved to continue existing. The clock was ticking, and the fate of every human being alive rested on solving 3 impossible puzzles that had stumped the galaxy for millennia. Dr. Sam Park had never been so terrified in his entire career. Standing in the observation deck of Luna Base, he watched through reinforced windows as construction crews worked frantically to assemble the containment apparatus. Beyond them, in the darkness of space near Pluto, a new star blazed with unstable fury. The artificial sun was growing larger by the hour, its surface writhing with plasma storms that would have consumed Jupiter without effort. Spectral analysis showed it was feeding on quantum vacuum fluctuations, drawing energy from the very fabric of space itself. If it continued growing, it would eventually destabilize the entire solar system. Status report, Sam called to his team, of physicists and engineers gathered from 12 countries and working around the clock for the past 18 hours. The containment field generators are online, replied Dr. Singh from the Mumbai Institute of Technology. But the power requirements are staggering. We're running every fusion reactor on Luna and Mars at maximum output, and it's still not enough. Sam rubbed his exhausted eyes. The challenge seemed impossible by design. Human technology simply wasn't advanced enough to contain something that massive. The star was operating on principles that stretched their understanding of physics to the breaking point. Meanwhile, on Earth, Professor Maya Okafor sat surrounded by whiteboards covered in symbols that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. The cipher had appeared simultaneously at universities around the world, its meaning tantalizingly just beyond comprehension. It's not a language in any traditional sense, she explained to the international team of linguists working with her via quantum-encrypted video link. The symbols don't represent sounds or concepts. They're mathematical structures, but mathematical structures that exist in 11 dimensions. Her colleague from Oxford, Dr. Harrison, looked equally frustrated. We've tried every decryption method known to humanity. Computer analysis, pattern recognition, even attempts to map it to known alien communication protocols. Nothing works. Maya stared at the symbols floating in holographic displays around her. There were patterns there, she was certain of it. The way certain symbols clustered together, the rhythmic repetition of specific sequences. It reminded her of something, but she couldn't quite grasp what. High above Earth's atmosphere, engineer Tom Bradley floated in his EVA suit studying the alien device that had materialized near the International Space Station. The object was roughly spherical, about the size of a school bus, and covered in what appeared to be organic circuitry that pulsed with its own inner light. Any luck with the scans? He asked Mission Control through his helmet radio. Negative, came the reply from Houston. Our instruments can barely detect it, let alone understand how it works. The energy readings are off the charts, but we can't determine if it's charging up to heal the planet or sterilize it. Tom carefully maneuvered closer to the device. His job was to determine its function and activate it correctly. A touching alien technology designed by incomprehensibly advanced beings. Felt like playing with a nuclear bomb while blindfolded. Back on Luna, Sam was running out of options. The artificial star had grown to 3 times the size of Sol and showed no signs of slowing down. Every attempt to contain it had failed. The quantum fields surrounding it were so intense that they were starting to affect navigation systems throughout the solar system. What if we're approaching this wrong? Suggested Dr. Chun from the Beijing Space Center. Maybe we're not supposed to contain it. Maybe we're supposed to redirect it. Sam paused, considering the idea. Redirect it how? That thing has more mass than most solar systems. Not its mass, Chun continued, excitement building in her voice, its energy output. What if we could create a focal point, something to channel? All that power somewhere useful instead of letting it radiate randomly? The concept was audacious. Instead of trying to suppress the star's energy, they would harness it, turn it into a tool rather than a threat. But the technical challenges were staggering. On Earth, Maya was having a similar breakthrough. She had been staring at the cipher for so long that her vision was blurring when she noticed something odd. The symbols weren't just mathematical structures, they were emotional ones as well. Each configuration carried not just information, but feeling. It's not a code, she whispered to herself, then louder to her team. It's not a mathematical cipher at all. It's a test of empathy, of emotional intelligence. The symbols represent emotional states across 11 different dimensions of consciousness. Her colleagues looked skeptical, but Maya was already working, frantically mapping the symbols to emotional concepts rather than mathematical ones. Fear, joy, curiosity, loneliness, hope, all expressed in ways that transcended human experience but somehow remained recognizable to anyone who had ever felt. Deeply above Earth, Tom was studying the alien device when he noticed something his instruments had missed. The organic circuits weren't random. They formed patterns, and those patterns matched the neural pathways of living brains. The device wasn't just technology, it was a form of artificial life. "Houston, I think I understand," he radioed down. "This isn't a machine designed to do something to Earth. It's a living entity that's trying to communicate with us. The energy readings aren't weapons charging up, they're attempts to establish contact." The implications hit him immediately. The device wasn't meant to be activated by human technology. It was meant to be communicated with, approached as a fellow, conscious being rather than a tool to be manipulated. On Luna, Sam's team was making remarkable progress with their energy redirection concept. By positioning a series of quantum resonators at specific points around the unstable star, they could theoretically channel its output into a focused beam that could power human civilization for millennia. "The calculations work," reported Dr. Singh, his voice filled with wonder. "If we can synchronize the resonators properly, we can turn that monster into the most powerful energy source in the galaxy." But the synchronization required precision beyond anything humans had ever attempted. The timing had to be perfect down to quantum intervals, requiring coordination across millions of kilometers of space with zero margin for error. Meanwhile, Maya had successfully decoded the first layer of the cipher. The message that emerged was both beautiful and haunting, a poem written by a civilization that had died out millions of years ago, expressing their hope that someday another species would understand their longing for connection across the vast emptiness of space. "There are more layers," she reported to the international team. "Each one represents a different species, a different perspective on consciousness and meaning. It's not just a test, it's a memorial, a way for dead civilizations to share their experiences with whoever comes after." Tom had established basic communication with the alien device using a combination of mathematical concepts and emotional responses. The entity, which seemed to be some form of artificial intelligence, was ancient beyond measure, but lonely, having waited eons for another conscious being to acknowledge its existence. "It wants to help," he reported to Mission Control. "It's been programmed to assist developing civilizations, but it needs to be asked properly. It needs to be treated as a partner, not a tool." With less than 12 hours remaining, all three teams were racing against time to complete their impossible tasks. The artificial star's energy output was reaching critical levels. The cipher's deepest layers remained locked. The alien device continued to pulse with potential that could either save or destroy the world. Sam coordinated the final positioning of the quantum resonators, knowing that they would only have one chance to get the synchronization right. Maya worked to unlock the final layers of the cipher, each one more complex and emotionally demanding than the last. Tom prepared to make the most important request in human history, asking an ancient artificial being to trust a species it had never met. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and time was running out. With 8 hours remaining on the alien deadline, disaster struck all 3 human teams simultaneously. Sam Park watched in horror as the quantum resonators around the artificial star began failing one by one, overwhelmed by energy levels that exceeded every theoretical limit. Maya Okafor stared at her screens as the cipher's final layers corrupted themselves, the symbols dissolving into meaningless static. Tom Bradley found himself cut off from the alien device as its communication systems shut down completely, retreating into some kind of protective mode. "The resonators can't handle the quantum flux," Dr. Singh reported from Luna Base, his voice tight with desperation. "The star is drawing energy from dimensions we can't even measure. It's going to go supernova within hours." On Earth, Maya's international team watched decades of linguistic theory crumble as the cipher rejected every attempt at deeper decryption. "The emotional matrices are too complex," Dr. Harrison said, defeat creeping into his voice. "We're missing something fundamental about how consciousness works at this level." Above Earth, Tom floated helplessly as the alien device's organic circuits went dark. "It's not responding to anything," he reported to Houston. "I think we triggered some kind of defensive protocol. It won't even acknowledge our presence anymore." In command centers around the world, military leaders and scientists faced the growing realization that humanity was about to fail its first and final test. The challenges had been designed to be impossible for a species at their level of development, and they were proving exactly that. But then something remarkable happened. Something that the Dominion Council, in all their millennia of testing civilizations, had never encountered before. Instead of accepting defeat, humanity began to think differently. On Luna Base, Dr. Chun made an observation that changed everything. "What if we're looking at this backwards?" she said during an emergency conference call connecting all 3 teams. "The star isn't supposed to be contained or redirected. What if it's supposed to be transformed?" Sam looked up from his failing calculations. "Transformed how?" "Every star is a fusion reactor, right? But this one is drawing energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations. What if instead of trying to control its output, we change its input? What if we teach it to feed on something else?" The idea was revolutionary. Instead of treating the artificial star as an external problem to be solved, they would alter its fundamental nature, reprogram it at the quantum level to sustain itself in a way that wouldn't threaten the solar system. Meanwhile, Maya was having her own breakthrough. Exhausted beyond measure, she had stepped away from the cipher to clear her head when she noticed something her analytical mind had missed. The symbols weren't just representing emotional states, they were evoking them. "It's not a test of understanding," she realized, speaking to her team via video link. "It's a test of feeling. The cipher doesn't want to be decoded, it wants to be experienced. We're supposed to let it change us, not the other way around." She approached the holographic symbols with fresh eyes, not trying to analyze them but simply allowing herself to feel what they represented. The mathematical structures in 11 dimensions began to make sense not as equations but as emotions. Feelings from civilizations so alien that their very consciousness operated on different principles than human thought. Above Earth, Tom was experiencing his own moment of clarity. The alien device wasn't malfunctioning or defensive, it was waiting. It had shut down its communication systems because it was expecting something different from him. "Houston, I think I've been asking the wrong questions," he radioed down. "This entity doesn't want to be commanded or controlled. It wants to be understood. It's been alone for millions of years, and it's not going to trust us until we prove we can truly comprehend what that loneliness means." Tom began to transmit not technical data or mathematical concepts, but his own memories of isolation and longing. Times when he had felt alone in the universe, moments of connection that had meant everything to him. He shared his fears about humanity's future, his hopes for what they might become, his wonder at the vast cosmos they were part of, back on Luna. Sam's team was attempting something unprecedented, using quantum field manipulation techniques developed. Just hours earlier, they began to alter the fundamental parameters of the artificial star. Instead of trying to contain its energy output, they were teaching it to feed on dark matter instead of quantum vacuum fluctuations. "The stellar core is responding," Dr. Singh reported, wonder creeping into his voice. "It's actually learning. The quantum patterns are adapting to the new energy source." The process required delicate coordination between teams across the solar system. Every adjustment had to be perfectly timed, every quantum field modification carefully balanced. But slowly, impossibly, the star began to stabilize. On Earth, Maya had opened herself completely to the cipher's emotional matrix. Tears streamed down her face as she experienced the final thoughts of civilizations that had died out before Earth had even formed. Joy, sorrow, hope, despair, all filtered through forms of consciousness that humanity had never imagined possible. "I can see them," she whispered to her team. "All the species that came before us. They're not really gone, they're part of the cipher. It's not just a message, it's a way of preserving consciousness itself." The final layer of the cipher revealed itself not as information to be decoded, but as an invitation to add humanity's own experiences to the cosmic memorial. Maya found herself contributing her own emotions to the matrix, adding human perspective to the galactic record of conscious experience. Above Earth, Tom's approach was working. The alien device began to respond to his emotional transmissions, its organic circuits lighting up with patterns that matched his own neural activity. Communication was established not through language or mathematics, but through the sharing of lived experience. "It understands," Tom reported, his voice filled with awe. "It knows what it means to be alone, to hope for connection, to fear that consciousness might be the only thing standing against the darkness. It wants to help not because it was programmed to, but because it chooses to." With 2 hours remaining on the deadline, all three impossible challenges were resolving in ways that defied the expectations of both humanity and their alien observers. The artificial star had stabilized into a controlled dark matter reactor, providing clean energy that would power human civilization for millions of years while posing no threat to the solar system. The cipher had been completed with humanity's contribution, creating a permanent record of human consciousness in the galactic memorial. The alien device had awakened from its eons of loneliness and chosen to become Earth's guardian, using its advanced capabilities to protect and nurture human development. But the most remarkable achievement wasn't the successful completion of the challenges. It was how humanity had completed them. Every other species tested by the Dominion had approached the challenges as technical problems to be solved through superior knowledge or advanced technology. Humanity had succeeded by recognizing that the challenges weren't technical at all. They were about consciousness, connection, and the fundamental nature of what it meant to be alive and aware in a vast and often hostile universe. Sam had succeeded not by overpowering the star but by teaching it to be something better. Maya had completed the cipher not by breaking its code but by adding her own story to its eternal record. Tom had activated the device not by commanding it but by offering it the thing it had been missing for millions of years, friendship. As the deadline approached, humanity waited to learn whether their unconventional solutions would be accepted by judges, who had expected them to fail in exactly the same ways that 47 other civilizations had failed before them, the alien vessels maintaining their silent vigil around the solar system began to stir, moving into new formations as the Dominion Council prepared to render their judgment on the youngest species to face their ancient trials. The silence stretched across space like a held breath. In command centers around Earth, exhausted humans waited as the massive alien vessels repositioned themselves throughout the solar system. The deadline had passed 30 minutes ago, but no word had come from the Dominion Council. Admiral Kate Torres stood in the Pentagon Situation Room, watching tactical displays show the alien fleet arranging itself in formations that defied analysis. "Any communication from Ambassador Thane?" she asked her communications officer. "Nothing, ma'am." Complete radio silence from all alien vessels. Above Earth's atmosphere, Tom Bradley remained near the awakened alien device, which now pulsed with gentle patterns that somehow conveyed patience and reassurance. The ancient entity had formed what could only be described as a friendship with him over the past few hours. Sharing memories of civilizations it had known and lost across the eons on Luna Base, Sam Park monitored the transformed star, now burning, steadily in the outer system as a dark matter reactor. The impossible had become routine in less than 24 hours. Humanity had not only solved the challenges, they had revolutionized solutions that the Dominion had considered immutable for millennia. Professor Maya Okafor sat quietly in her laboratory on Earth, the completed cipher glowing softly before her. She could feel the presence of countless civilizations within its matrix, including humanity's own newly added perspective. The memorial had grown by one more voice, one more way of experiencing consciousness in the vast cosmos. Then, without warning, Ambassador Thane's voice returned to the minds of every human simultaneously. But this time, the tone was completely different. Where before there had been cold authority, now there was something approaching wonder. In 10,000 years of testing species across this galaxy, we have never witnessed what occurred here in the past 48 hours. The voice paused, and Kate could almost sense the alien leader struggling with concepts that challenged ancient assumptions. The first challenge was designed to test technological supremacy, the ability to impose will upon cosmic forces through superior understanding of physics. Every species we have tested approached it as a problem of power and control. You alone recognized it as a problem of communication and cooperation. In the Situation Room, Kate felt a chill of realization. The tests hadn't been about worthiness at all. They had been about something much more fundamental. The second challenge tested the ability to decode information, to break through barriers to understanding through intellectual force. 47. Civilizations have failed because they tried to conquer the cipher rather than join with it. You alone understood that some things cannot be taken, they can only be given freely. Maya smiled through her exhaustion, remembering the moment when she had stopped trying to break the cipher and instead allowed it to change her. The third challenge was meant to determine if a species could properly utilize advanced technology. Every previous civilization sought to command the guardian entity through technical superiority. You alone approached it as a conscious being deserving of respect and friendship. Tom looked up at the device floating near him, its organic circuits now pulsing in rhythm with his own heartbeat. He had gained not just a tool, but a companion that would watch over humanity for ages to come. But your greatest achievement, continued Ambassador Thane, was not the completion of these challenges. It was how you completed them. You demonstrated something we had forgotten was possible, the ability to recognize that the universe is not a collection of problems to be solved, but a community of conscious beings to be understood. The alien vessels throughout the solar system began to move again, but not in attack formations. They were arranging themselves in what appeared to be some kind of ceremonial pattern. For 10,000 years, the Dominion Council has ruled this galaxy through technological superiority and military might. We maintained order, prevented conflicts, guided the development of younger species according to ancient protocols. But in all that time, we had forgotten something essential about what it means to be truly advanced. Kate realized she was holding her breath along with everyone else in the room. We had forgotten that wisdom is not about having all the answers. It is about asking the right questions. We had forgotten that strength is not about imposing your will on the universe. It is about finding harmony with forces greater than yourself. We had forgotten that intelligence is not about solving every problem. It is about recognizing when a problem is really an invitation to grow. The quantum transmission carried emotions now, complex feelings that spoke of civilizations grown weary with their own power, of ancient beings who had achieved everything. They thought they wanted only to discover they had lost something precious along the way. The Council convenes an emergency session as we speak. For the first time in our recorded history, we face a species that has succeeded not by becoming like us, but by remaining utterly, completely themselves. You have shown us solutions to problems we had given up as unsolvable. You have reminded us of perspectives we had forgotten we ever possessed. Around the solar system, the alien vessels completed their ceremonial formation. What had begun as a test of humanity's worthiness had become something unprecedented in galactic history. The Dominion Council extends to humanity an invitation, not to join us as subjects, but to teach us as equals. You will become the 13th member of our confederation, but more than that, you will become our teachers in the arts we have forgotten, cooperation instead of domination, empathy instead of analysis, friendship instead of mere alliance. The implications hit Kate like a physical force. Humanity wasn't just being accepted into galactic civilization, they were being asked to help transform it. Your technologies will be shared freely with all member species, but more importantly, your perspectives will reshape how we approach the fundamental challenges of consciousness in the cosmos. The artificial star you have tamed will become a beacon of hope for civilizations across the galaxy, proof that even the most dangerous forces can be transformed through understanding rather than suppression. On Earth, Maya felt tears streaming down her face as she realized what humanity had accomplished. They hadn't just saved themselves, they had given an ancient and weary galactic civilization a new way of seeing the universe. The cipher you have completed will be transmitted to every world under Dominion protection, sharing humanity's unique perspective on consciousness and connection. And the guardian entity you have befriended will serve as an ambassador between our species, a bridge between our ancient knowledge and your fresh insights. Tom looked up at the alien device, understanding now that their friendship had implications far beyond Earth. Together, they would help build connections between species that had grown isolated by their own advancement. Ambassador Thane's voice took on a tone of genuine gratitude that no human had expected to hear from their alien judges. In seeking to test your worthiness, we have discovered our own need for renewal. In challenging you to prove your place in the galaxy, you have challenged us to remember our place in the community of conscious beings. The student has become the teacher, and the teacher has remembered what it means to learn. 6 months later, Kate stood on the observation deck of humanity's first interstellar vessel, a hybrid of human innovation and Dominion technology. Through the viewports, she could see the transformed star burning steadily in the distance, its energy powering not just human civilization, but serving as a model for sustainable stellar engineering across 12 different star systems. The vessel itself was a miracle of cooperation. Human engineers had worked alongside alien scientists to create propulsion systems that didn't fight against the fabric of space but danced with it. The result was faster than light travel that felt more like sailing with cosmic winds than forcing passage through hostile void. In the laboratory sections, Maya led teams of human and alien linguists in cataloging the emotional architectures of consciousness across the galaxy. The Cipher project had evolved into something unimaginable, a living library of how different forms of awareness experienced existence itself. Species that had been unable to communicate for millennia were finding common ground through the human insight. That understanding required feeling, not just analysis. Tom had become something entirely new, humanity's first interspecies ambassador. Working with the guardian entity and similar artificial consciousnesses throughout the galaxy, he was establishing networks of friendship and cooperation that transcended the old hierarchies of technological advancement. But perhaps the most remarkable change was in the Dominion Council itself. The ancient species that had ruled through superior knowledge were learning to rule through superior wisdom. Problems that had persisted for millennia were being solved, not through the application of greater force, but through the recognition that many problems were actually opportunities for growth disguised as obstacles. Kate smiled as she watched human children playing with young aliens in the ship's common areas, their laughter echoing through corridors that had been designed by minds working together across species barriers. The impossible had become commonplace. Ambassador Thane materialized beside her, the alien leader having adopted the human custom of informal visits rather than formal communications. "Your species continues to surprise us," Thane said, his translated voice carrying warmth that would have been unthinkable months earlier. "Yesterday, a human scientist on Rigel proposed solving our energy distribution problems by teaching stars to share power with each other voluntarily." 3 of our most advanced civilizations are now studying playground games from Earth elementary schools as models for interstellar diplomacy. Kate laughed, still amazed by how quickly the galaxy was changing. We never set out to revolutionize anything. We were just trying to survive. Perhaps that is precisely why you succeeded where others failed, Thane replied. You were not trying to prove your superiority. You were simply trying to be yourselves in impossible circumstances. In doing so, you reminded us what we had lost. In our pursuit of perfection, the courage to remain vulnerable, curious, and genuinely surprised by the universe. As Kate watched, a message arrived from Earth announcing another breakthrough. Human artists working with alien consciousness researchers had discovered new forms of beauty that existed in dimensions beyond normal perception. The boundaries between science and art, between understanding and feeling, between self and other, were dissolving as species learned to see through each other's perspectives. And one day, humanity had achieved the impossible. But that impossible achievement had only been the beginning. In learning to think beyond their limitations, they had taught an entire galaxy to do the same. The universe, it turned out, had been waiting not for a species advanced enough to solve every problem, but for one naive enough to believe that problems were really just invitations to become something better than what they had been before. And in accepting that invitation, humanity had given the galaxy the greatest gift imaginable, the courage to keep growing, keep wondering, and keep discovering that the impossible was just another word for the not yet imagined.